So I recently went through something I wouldn't wish on anyone. And it all began with a pool. Not just any pool, our pool. The kind of place that wasn't just water and concrete, but a memory carved into the heart of my family. I remember the way the late afternoon sun used to hit it. It wasn't just light bouncing off water. It was Sarah's laughter echoing back to me years after she was gone. She dreamed up that pool. Every single detail, from the gray pavers that stayed cool under bare feet to the little waterfall feature Jadden loved more than anything. After she passed, that pool became more than a backyard luxury. It became our sanctuary. The one place in the world where the silence of our home didn't feel suffocating, where I could still feel her presence. I'd sit on the lounge chair, book in my lap, though I was never really reading. I was watching Jadden, our boy, kick his little legs upside down, practicing underwater handstands. His shouts, his cannonballs, his laughter, that was the only sound big enough to fight back the quiet that grief leaves behind. That pool wasn't just a hole filled with water. It was the last piece of us, the Ryan family. And then one day, Karen Davis decided it belonged to her. Her son, Leo, was the kind of boy who carried a permanent scowl, like the world owed him something. He leaned against my fence one Saturday afternoon while Jadden splashed. "My mom says we get to use this pool whenever we want," he announced. The words hit me like a splinter under the skin. I kept my voice calm. "No, son," I said quietly. "This is my pool, my family's pool." But he jabbed a finger through the slats. "It's a community pool. My mom's the HOA president. She makes the rules." Before I could answer, her voice floated over the fence like honey laced with poison. "Leo, honey, what did I say about bothering Mr. Ryan?" Karen appeared, all perfect blonde hair and too bright smile. Her apology sounded sweet, but her eyes were working, scanning, assessing, measuring. "I'm so sorry, Eric. Lo just gets so excited. He loves swimming more than anything." It was then her gaze shifted, not to me but to Jadden. She lit up, her smile widening. "Jadden, sweetheart, you look like such a little fish in there." Jadden gave a shy smile and something twisted inside me. She was looking at him too closely, too warmly, like she was seeing an opening. I forced a smile of my own, pressing my hand to my son's wet hair. "We're fine," I said. "Thanks." But her eyes followed us as we walked back into the house. They didn't blink, didn't soften. They were taking inventory. That night when I tucked Jadden in, he looked at me with an innocence that broke me. "Dad," he whispered, "is it our pool, or is it just your pool?" That question, so small, cut deeper than any knife. He was 10. He didn't understand the games adults play, the way people like Karen worm into cracks and widen them. I steadied my voice. "It's ours, champ. Yours, mine, and Mom's, always." But I knew in that moment Karen had planted something, a seed, and she wasn't going to stop watering it. The gifts started arriving a week later, a box of cookies with a perfect bow. A video game Jadden had begged me for, suddenly appearing in his hands with the words, "Karen said Leo didn't want it." I knew better. Leo had been screaming for that same game just days earlier in their yard. This wasn't generosity. This was logistics. The same thing they drilled into me in the army, hearts and minds. Whoever supplies the needs owns the loyalty. Karen was trying to become the supplier, the source, the replacement. That night, as I stood at the kitchen window watching the moonlight shimmer across the pool, I felt Sarah's voice in my head. Quiet protector, that's what she used to call me. But the angle I saw forming now, it was a threat vector. And it had a name, Karen Davis. Everyone thought the first gift was harmless. Cookies, who questions cookies? But to me they weren't sweet, they were a message. The second gift confirmed it. A brand new video game wrapped neatly with a bow, the exact one I had told Jadden he'd need to save for. I'll never forget the way his eyes lit up as he held it in his hands. "Karen said Leo didn't want it," he explained, excitement bubbling in his voice. But I knew better. I'd heard Leo yelling for that same game in their backyard just a week before. The game wasn't a gift, it was bait. That night I walked over to her house. The door swung open and there she was, dressed in a silk robe, glass of white wine in hand, pretending to be surprised. "Eric, what a surprise," she purred. "Everything okay?" Her performance was flawless, too flawless. I kept my voice steady. Karen, we need to talk about the gifts, the game, the cookies. I don't want you giving Jadden things like that. Her smile froze just at the corners. Oh, Eric, don't be so old-fashioned. It takes a village, you know. I'm just trying to be a good neighbor, a friend. The word friend felt wrong in her mouth. My best friend, my only friend, was gone. Sarah. She had been the balance to my quiet intensity. With her gone, my walls were higher, my defenses stronger. Karen wasn't offering friendship. She was offering invasion. We're fine on our own, I told her firmly. No more gifts, please. I turned before she could answer, but I could feel her eyes on me. Not wounded, not confused, calculating. She wasn't finished. The next day, I caught her through the kitchen window. She was leaning over the fence, her smile wide and sugary, handing Jadden a brightly colored flyer. He came running inside, eyes shining, the paper clutched in his hand. Dad, you won't believe this. Karen's having a pool party for Leo's birthday, and she wants to have it here, at our pool. The flyer was glossy, professionally printed. A picture of my pool took up the whole page. Across the top, Leo's splash bash at the Ryans. My blood went cold. Karen hadn't just crossed the line. She had obliterated it, paved over it, and invited the entire neighborhood to dance on the ashes. She hadn't even told me. She told my son. It was a declaration of war disguised as an invitation. And the worst part? Jadden was caught in the middle, his hope shining like a spotlight on my failure to protect him from her games. He bounced on his toes, grinning. Isn't it cool, Dad? All my friends will be here. We can do cannonball contests and you can grill burgers. I knelt, meeting his eager eyes. My throat felt like it was closing. Buddy, Karen didn't ask me about this. We can't have a party here. The light in his face flickered, then collapsed. But she already gave out the invitations. Everyone's coming, his voice broke. Why can't we, Dad? It's our pool, isn't it? You said it was ours. The word ours hit me like shrapnel. That was the seed she'd planted, and now it had sprouted. She's nice to me, he cried. She gives me stuff. She wants to have fun, you just don't like her. Every word was a dagger. He couldn't see the manipulation. He couldn't understand the poison hidden in the sugar. To him, she was fun. And I was the quiet father who always said no. I pulled him into my arms, but he was stiff, resisting me. The rejection cut deeper than I expected. I'm sorry, champ, I whispered. I know this is disappointing, but this is my final decision. He wrenched away, storming to his room, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. The house fell silent again, but this silence was different. It wasn't grief. It was betrayal, and she had engineered every second of it. That night I sat at the kitchen table, the flyer spread out in front of me like a lit fuse. Rage burned in my chest, but I forced it down, training over anger, strategy over emotion. I stared at the glossy photo of my own backyard, imagining strangers trampling the pavers Sarah picked, splashing in the water she dreamed of. No, she wasn't going to win. If she wanted to use the pool as a weapon, I would take the weapon away. So in the dead of night, I pulled the pump from the shed, dropped the hose into the deep end. The machine roared to life, pulling 6,000 gallons an hour. The water line dropped inch by inch until the sanctuary Sarah built looked like a hollow wound in the earth. I stood there in the moonlight, watching the pool drain, and I made myself a promise. She would never control my family, not while I was still breathing. The morning of the party felt like the calm before a storm. Too quiet. Jadden barely looked at me at breakfast, stabbing his fork into his pancakes like every bite was a punishment. I tried to speak, to explain, but the silence was his verdict, and Karen had won that round. By noon, the cars began to arrive. Minivans with balloons tied to mirrors, back seats full of kids clutching noodles and wrapped presents. I watched them from the window, my jaw tight. One after another, they poured down the street toward my house, as if it were a public venue, as if it didn't belong to me at all. I stepped into the backyard, the empty pool yawning like a scar in the sunlight. Its bare concrete sides gleamed pale blue and hollow. It didn't look beautiful anymore, it looked surgical, harsh, necessary. The silence of it was my line in the sand. And then I heard her voice, loud, commanding, triumphant. Here we are, let's get this party started. The side gate swung open. balloons bobbing, cake balanced high on her arms, a crowd of parents and kids trailing behind her like a parade. She didn't knock, didn't even hesitate. She simply walked in head high, ready to claim what she thought was hers. But then she saw it, the pool empty. The smile slid right off her face. It was like watching ice crack. For a heartbeat, her mask broke, and the fury underneath flashed raw and unhidden. A kid tossed a noodle into the basin. It slapped against the tile with a sound that echoed louder than any word. A balloon popped. A child began to cry. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Karen froze. Then, as if pretending hard enough could rewrite reality, she marched forward, cake wobbling in her hands. "Kids, it's fine. He's just being dramatic. We'll still have fun." But the words rang hollow. The cake slipped, tilting, sliding. I reached out to steady the rail. She didn't. The whole thing toppled. A pink frosted masterpiece belly flopping onto the pavers, exploding like a failed firework. Frosting sprayed her ankles. Leo wailed. Her hands gripped a pool noodle like a sword. She swung, smacking me across the shoulder with a hollow thunk. "Assault!" she shrieked, eyes wild. I raised my palms, calm, controlled. "Ma'am, stop." Around us, parents were backing away. Phones raised, some filming, some whispering. Marty from down the street muttered, "Well, live stream canceled, folks." His wife swatted his arm, but the damage was done. Her spectacle was unraveling in real time. Karen jabbed the noodle at me again, foam squeaking against my chest. "He assaulted me," she screamed. A mom shook her head. "Karen, you walked into his yard. Look around you." For the first time, Karen faltered. Her eyes darted from the gaping pool to the crushed cake, to the parents watching, silent and uncomfortable. Her audience was slipping through her fingers. And then Leo cried louder. "The pool is broken. You broke my birthday." His wails cracked whatever composure she had left. She rounded on me, voice dropping into something low, venomous. "What did you do?" "I drained the pool," I said evenly. "It needed cleaning." It was a lie, but one wrapped in just enough plausibility to leave her with no ground to stand on. And she knew it. Whispers grew, phones lowered. Parents gathered their kids. One by one they slipped out the gate, their silence louder than judgment. The grand community party had evaporated. And Karen was left standing in the ruins. Her face twisted with fury. She pointed a frosting-streaked finger at me. "You are a miserable man. You don't want your son happy. You're isolating him, neglecting him." The word hung in the air, neglect. A word that carried weight, authority, consequences. She said it like a curse, a weapon. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The scene around us spoke for itself. Her tantrum, her son shrieking, the empty pool, the ruined cake. She had overplayed her hand. But as she dragged Leo out, his sobs echoing, she turned her eyes on me one last time. And what I saw there chilled me to the bone. It wasn't disappointment. It wasn't anger. It was promise. A promise that this wasn't over, that she would come back harder, smarter, more dangerous. And deep down, I knew she would. 2 days later, the knock came. Not a neighbor, not a delivery, something colder. I opened the door to find a woman in a gray suit, holding a badge and a binder. Her eyes were kind but tired, like she'd seen too many homes that didn't deserve to be homes. "Mr. Eric Ryan?" she asked softly. "Yes," I managed. "My name is Ms. Albright. I'm with Child Protective Services. May I come in?" My stomach turned to stone. She had done it. Karen. She'd taken that single poisonous word, neglect, and given it life. I stepped aside. She walked in, scanning everything. Every photo, every corner, every silence. "We received an anonymous report," she began, flipping open her binder. "The allegation is that your son, Jadden, is being emotionally neglected and isolated, that he's not allowed to socialize, that you're withholding." Her words echoed like bullets. My hands stayed still, folded in my lap, though inside I was shaking. "That's completely untrue," I said firmly. "Tell me about Jadden," she prompted, pen hovering. So I told her about Sarah, my best friend, my wife, the hole she left when she passed. I told her about Jadden's grief, his quietness, but also his resilience. I told her about movie nights, about homework battles, about the stupid little jokes that only he and I laughed at. I painted her the truth. A home heavy with loss, yes, but still full of love. She nodded, listening, then asked the question I dreaded. The report mentioned a neighbor, Karen Davis. It states you're preventing Jadden from having a relationship with her and her son. The trap. I breathed slow, choosing every word like it was a landmine. Karen has an unusual interest in my son. She oversteps. She undermines me as a parent. She even tried to host a party in my backyard without my permission. That's why I drained the pool. It wasn't neglect, it was protection. Her pen scratched across the page. That does sound extreme, she admitted. It was an extreme situation, I countered, voice steady. She handed out invitations with my address printed on them. She put my son in the middle of it. I de-escalated, non-confrontational, that's what I did. Her expression didn't change, I couldn't read her, and then she asked to see the house. So I led her through every room, every corner. The kitchen stocked with food. The fridge covered in allergy plans and emergency numbers. The 2 EpiPens in plain view. She clicked the pool gate twice, hearing the lock catch. In Jadden's room, she saw his Lego waterfall, the tiny plastic version of the real one Sarah had designed. Mom built the big one, Jadden said quietly when she asked. We built this. Her pen moved slower now. Not just notes, observations, evidence of a home, not a prison. Finally, she asked to speak to him alone, and my blood froze. I waited in the kitchen, every second dragging like a mile. I strained to hear, but their voices were low, hushed. I imagined him, still angry with me, maybe repeating Karen's words, maybe saying he wanted to spend more time with her. When Ms. Albright finally returned, her face was unreadable. She sat down across from me, closed her binder, and spoke carefully. Jadden is a bright, articulate boy, she said. It's clear he loves you very much. Relief hit me so hard it nearly buckled my knees. But then she continued. He is also lonely. He misses his mother, and he expressed a desire to spend more time with Mrs. Davis. The relief vanished, replaced by a hollow ache. Karen's poison was still working, even after everything. But then Ms. Albright delivered her decision. I see no evidence of neglect. I will recommend this case be closed. I exhaled, a victory, but it didn't feel like one. However, she added, eyes steady, a report has been filed. That puts you on our radar. Any further complaints will be taken very seriously. I advise you to resolve this conflict with your neighbor peacefully. Peacefully, as if peace was even possible with a woman like Karen. When she left, the silence that followed was suffocating. I realized something chilling. This wasn't about cookies or parties anymore. She was building a paper trail. Brick by brick, accusation by accusation, and now I was on record, a file in a cabinet. One more accusation, one more staged moment, and I could lose him. That night after Jadden fell asleep, I sat in the dark, staring at the quiet pool. My pulse hammered as the truth settled in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. And if she was building her case against me, then I would build mine against her. So I ordered them, security cameras, high definition, night vision, eyes that would never blink, never forget, never fall for her charm. If she was going to keep playing this game, then fine. The next move was hers, but this time I'd be ready. The day it happened started like any other. Coffee, drop-off, a wave goodbye to Jadden as he ran into school with his backpack bouncing on his shoulders. For a moment life felt normal, almost. But normal never lasts when someone like Karen is waiting. By early afternoon, my phone buzzed. An email from the school. Reminder, today is a half day. Pickup was at 1:30. The clock read 3:15. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed my keys, my hands trembling. I called the school office. No answer. I dialed Jadden's phone, straight to voicemail. A buzzing panic filled my head. I tore across town, tires screaming at corners. When I skidded into the parking lot, it was empty, deserted. Only a janitor sweeping steps, whistling. My son, I gasped, rushing to him. Jadden Ryan, did you see him? Did he go with someone? The man shrugged. After-school program in the gym, maybe check there. I sprinted to the gym. Kids were dribbling basketballs. None of them were Jadden. The supervisor checked her clipboard, her pen tapping nervously. Ryan, oh yes, he was picked up. My chest collapsed. By who? She flipped the page. Karen Davis, she signed him out. It hit me like a hammer. No, I snarled. She's not on his contact list, she was never on his list. The supervisor blinked, rattled. She had the pink card, the parent card, with her name on it. A forged card. Show me, I demanded. She slid the slip toward me. My eyes caught the details instantly. Wrong font. The R in Ryan hooked backwards, sloppy, reckless, but convincing enough for them. I snapped a photo, shoved the card back. Who keeps your records? The principal hurried in, sweating. I pointed at the camera dome overhead. Pull the footage, noon to 2 now. His Adam's apple bobbed. We will. He slipped the forged card into a sleeve, scribbled the time on it, and handed me a copy of the sign-out log. My calm returned, not peace, not safety. Just the cold, strategic calm I knew from my Army days. Facts over theater, evidence over excuses. She planned this, she forged it, and she took my son. This wasn't manipulation anymore. This wasn't neighborly games. This was kidnapping. I bolted out of the school, phone pressed to my ear. 911, I said, my voice eerily calm. My son, been taken. By name, Karen Davis, my neighbor, forged records at the school. She has him now. The dispatcher told me to wait, to stay put. A patrol car would come. But I wasn't waiting. I knew exactly where she was. Her house. I sped through streets I'd driven 1,000 times, but never like this. Every stop sign was an obstacle, every red light an eternity. My knuckles were white on the wheel. And then her driveway, her car parked neatly, the blinds drawn, still, silent. I was halfway to the door when the patrol car arrived, lights flashing. 2 officers. One held me back. Sir, we need you to stay here. My son is in there, I barked. The other officer knocked. Silence. Knocked again, louder. Mrs. Davis, this is the police. Open the door. For a moment, nothing. Then the lock clicked, the door cracked open, and there she was, Karen. Hair messy, eyes wild, smile too bright. Officers, what a surprise. Is something wrong? We're here about Jadon Ryan, the officer said. His father reported him missing. Karen's eyes hardened. Missing? Absurd. He's right here. Poor boy was left all alone after school. I had to step in. His father is unstable. You should know that. Her lies dripped like venom. She was spinning the story before I could even breathe. And then I saw him, behind her, Jadon pale, confused, cookie crumbs clinging to his shirt. Dad, he whispered, voice small. Relief hit me like a tidal wave. My knees nearly buckled. Jadon, come here, son. He took one hesitant step forward, but Karen's hand clamped down on his shoulder, holding him back. It's okay, sweetie, she cooed, her tone sharp around the edges. Your father is just having another one of his episodes. We'll sort this out. The officer's voice stayed flat, but I caught the warning in it. Ma'am, he belongs with his father. Step aside. Karen's smile didn't move. Her fingers tightened on my son. For one terrible second, I thought she'd slam the door, that she'd drag him deeper inside. But then her mask cracked. She shoved him forward with a snarl. Fine, go back to your sad, broken house with your sad, broken father. Jadon stumbled into my arms. I crushed him against me, feeling the tremble in his little body. My chest ached with the force of my relief. But when I looked up at Karen, I saw something I'll never forget. Hatred, cold, reptilian hatred. A hatred that promised this wasn't the end. Not even close. At the station, the walls felt closer than they should have. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a flat, colorless haze. I sat in a stiff chair with Jadon pressed against me, his small hand locked around mine like a lifeline. He hadn't let go since we'd left her house. Detective Miller was the kind of cop you wanted in moments like this. Calm, patient. Her voice soft when she questioned Jadon, her pen steady as she wrote every word. He told her everything. How Karen had been waiting at the school. How she told him I was too busy for him, that I'd asked her to come instead. How she dangled promises of ice cream, cookies, and fun to lure him into her car. And then the part that broke me, how she told him I didn't care anymore, that I was too sad, too broken to be a good father. His voice cracked as he said it, and he buried his face into my arm, sobbing. My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might break. Detective Miller looked at me with something like pity, but her words were blunt. Honestly, Mr. Ryan, this will be tough to prosecute. She'll claim it was a misunderstanding, that you asked her for help that you forgot. It becomes your word against hers. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, but instead I just asked, so she gets away with it. Not exactly, Miller replied. We'll pursue charges, but in the meantime we can help you get a temporary restraining order. No contact, no coming within 100 yards of you or Jadden. It's a start. A start, that's all it ever was. The system slow, cautious, careful, and Karen, fast, cunning, ruthless. That night when we finally made it home, I checked every lock twice. Then again, every window, every door. The security cameras I'd installed blinked silently from the corners, recording the dark. They were my only impartial witnesses now. Jadden was quieter than usual. He lay on the couch, curled into himself, not even pretending to watch the cartoons flickering on the screen. I sat beside him, the weight of the day pressing down on me like a slab of concrete. Dad, he said suddenly, his voice muffled. I'm sorry. My heart cracked. Buddy, you have nothing to be sorry for. But I believed her. His eyes glistened. She said you didn't care, and for a second I thought maybe she was right. I pulled him close, pressing my lips to the top of his head. No, son, don't you ever carry that blame. She's the liar, not you. She failed you, not me, not us. But deep down I knew the truth. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning the restraining order was served. I watched on my security feed as a deputy handed her the papers. Karen's face went from shock to rage in seconds. Her arms flailed, her mouth moved fast, but the deputy didn't flinch. He turned and walked away, leaving her alone on her porch, clutching the order like it was a death sentence. She stared at my house for a long time afterward. That look again. Rage, not the kind that burned out quickly, the kind that smoldered, waiting for a spark. The silence that followed was worse than her noise. 2 days passed. No knocks, no gifts, no appearances. It should have been peace, but it was pressure, the kind of pressure that builds until something breaks. On the 3rd day, the phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. The voice on the other end was distorted, electronically altered, but the cadence was unmistakable. Her cadence. You think a piece of paper is going to stop me? She hissed. You're making a huge mistake. Jadden needs a mother, he needs me, and I will save him from you. Then the line went dead. I stood there, phone shaking in my hand, bile rising in my throat. She had just violated the order. And worse, she wasn't even hiding it. This wasn't a slip. This was her challenge. I screenshotted the call log, sent it straight to Detective Miller, but even as I hit send, I knew evidence wasn't enough, orders weren't enough, the system wasn't enough. If she was going to keep coming, then I had to be ready. Not just ready, I had to be one step ahead. So I made a decision. I wouldn't wait for her next move. I would set the stage myself, control the space, the time, the facts, just like logistics. She wanted a battle. Fine, I'd give her one, but it would be on my terms. And this time the cameras would be rolling. The morning of the trap, the air felt too still, like even the wind was holding its breath. Jadden tugged at his red sweatshirt, frowning. Do we really have to go to the park today, Dad? I forced a smile. Just you and me, buddy, tossing a football around, that's all. But it wasn't all. Hidden under my shirt was a body cam, synced to the second with Detective Miller. An unmarked car waited a block away, quiet as a shadow. And on Jadden's shoelace, a GPS tracker blinked softly, my silent insurance. Every angle was covered, every variable controlled. If she came, I'd have her. We tossed the ball back and forth, his laughter hesitant at first, then real. For a few precious minutes, it almost felt normal again. A father and son, sunshine on our faces, grass under our feet. But my head was on a swivel, my pulse loud in my ears. Every passing car, every jogger, every dog walker, I studied them all. Then I saw her. She thought the floppy hat and sunglasses made her invisible, but I knew her posture, her gait, the way she hovered half-hidden behind a tree, watching, waiting. "Buddy," I said softly, "I'm going to grab the water bottles from the car. Stay here on the bench. I'll be right back." His eyes filled with fear. "Don't leave me." "I'll be 10 feet away. I promise I won't take my eyes off you." It was the hardest lie I'd ever told. I turned, walking slowly, the body cam capturing the whole scene. My phone mirrored the live feed showing Jadden on the bench. And then, movement. Karen emerged, purposeful, fast, her disguise slipping the moment she thought she had him alone. She sat down beside him, well within the 100-yard limit the restraining order forbade. Her voice oozed fake sweetness. "Jadden, sweetie, don't listen to your father. He can't tell me who I can and can't see. I came to rescue you." I sprinted inside my head, but my legs held steady. Let her talk. Let her hang herself. She pulled something from her oversized purse, a plastic container. She opened it with a snap, the smell hitting the air, brownies. My chest froze. "See, your favorite," she cooed, holding one out to him, "with extra nuts." Nuts, my son's life-threatening allergy, the one plastered across his school records, the one sitting in bold red at the top of every emergency form she had forged. She knew. She had to know. Jadden's eyes went wide. He shook his head violently. "I can't, I'm allergic." Her smile cracked. "Don't be difficult, it's just a brownie. Your father is making you paranoid. Here, eat it." She shoved it toward his mouth. That was it. I sprinted across the grass, gravel spitting under my shoes, rage roaring in my chest. "Get away from my son." Her head snapped around. She realized too late what she'd done, what she'd revealed. She shoved the brownie into his hand, crumbs smearing across his skin, and bolted toward the street. The unmarked police car peeled out, cutting her off before she reached her escape. But I didn't care. I had only one focus. "Buddy, did you eat any?" I dropped to my knees, grabbing wipes from my pocket, scrubbing his hands. His breathing was already sharp, raspy, his cheeks flushed. "I don't think so," he sobbed, "but it touched me." A contact reaction, not as fast as ingestion, but enough to spiral. I ripped the EpiPen from my pocket, slammed it into his thigh through the jeans, counting out loud. 1, 2, 3, my own heart pounding with every number. By the time the siren of the ambulance screamed through the air, he was breathing easier. Tears streaked his cheeks, but his eyes were clear, alive. And Karen. She was in handcuffs, thrashing, screaming, her disguise ripped away, her face twisted in unhinged fury. The cameras caught it all. My body cam, the officer's dash cam, every angle covered. Detective Miller met my eyes as they loaded Jadden into the ambulance. "We've got her this time, Mr. Ryan. Violation of a restraining order, reckless endangerment, assault. The DA is going to bury her." I nodded, but I couldn't speak. My throat was tight with relief and rage all tangled together. I had caught her, finally, but in her final act she had almost cost me everything. And that truth would haunt me forever. The aftermath moved faster than I ever expected. For months, she had twisted the system to her advantage, but now, finally, it turned its weight on her. Detective Miller handed me my body cam and an evidence bag. "You saved everything," she said. "The footage, the audio, his testimony. The DA won't just have a case, they'll have a field day." And they did. Violation of a restraining order, reckless endangerment, assault, attempted poisoning. The list stacked high, each charge heavier than the last. But the one that shook me most wasn't written on paper. It was the quiet look on Jadden's face as paramedics checked his vitals. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't confused. He was just a boy who had almost been taken from me for good. The next morning, CPS called. Ms. Albright's tone was different now, sharp, clipped, apologetic. "Mr. Ryan," she said, "I reviewed the police report and the footage. I am appalled. We are filing for immediate removal of Leo from Mrs. Davis's custody. He will be placed with relatives, with supervised visitation only." The very system she'd tried to weaponize against me had turned and aimed squarely at her. 2 days later, another call came. Mark, the HOA treasurer. His voice was hushed but tinged with satisfaction. Eric, you won't believe this. Emergency board meeting. We recalled Karen, effective immediately. She's no longer president. The vote wasn't even close. He told me the truth was spilling out. Receipts of misused HOA funds. Complaints from neighbors she'd bullied into silence. Stories of intimidation, manipulation, and lies. My defiance had opened a crack in her facade, and now the whole dam was bursting. By the end of the week, her locks were changed, her keycard revoked, her reign was over. I thought I'd feel triumphant, victorious. But when I saw the moving truck outside her house, the feeling that settled over me wasn't joy, it was something heavier. She looked nothing like the immaculate president who once wielded smiles like weapons. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes hollow, her movements frantic. Her husband stood stiff and grim, loading boxes with the flat expression of a man humiliated. She carried out a box of Leo's toys, stumbled, and let them scatter across the driveway. Action figures, trucks, a stuffed bear, spilled like pieces of a life slipping away. She didn't even bend to pick them up. She just stared, then walked back inside. She had lost everything, her power, her reputation, her son. And yet, as I watched from my window, there was no triumph in me, just a deep, aching sadness. Because evil rarely starts evil. It starts broken. And all she had done, every cruel, manipulative move, was her desperate attempt to control the cracks in her own life. But her cracks had nearly shattered mine. That night, Jadon sat at the kitchen table with crayons scattered around him. He showed me his drawing, a pool full of bright blue water, 2 stick figures, him and me, standing side by side, both smiling. "She's really gone, isn't she?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, buddy," I said, my voice thick. "She's really gone." He leaned against me, and for the first time in months, I felt the weight lift off his little shoulders. The legal process dragged on, court dates, hearings, but in the end she pled guilty, probation, mandatory treatment. A permanent restraining order etched into law like stone. She lost custody of Leo indefinitely. Justice, cold, hard, necessary. But justice doesn't always come from the courts. Sometimes it comes from the simple act of taking back what was stolen. Weeks later, the pool was full again. The sound of splashing echoed through the yard, laughter bouncing off the water like sunlight. Jadon cannonballed, sending waves crashing, his joy louder than grief for the first time since Sarah had gone. I dove in after him. The water was sharp, clean, alive. He swam circles, laughing. "Dad, I'm making a whirlpool." "It takes a team," I said, grinning as I joined him. We'd been a team of 3 once, then a team of 2, and through fire, fear, and battle, we'd learned to hold the line together. "Dad," Jadon's voice was softer now, serious. "Yeah, buddy. Mom would have loved this." The words landed heavy and light all at once. For years, her memory was a wound, but now it felt like warmth, like presence. "Yeah," I said, my throat tight. "She'd be proud of you, of how brave you've been." He met my eyes, steady and clear. "She'd be proud of you too, Dad. You're a good protector." Protector, the word Sarah once gave me, the word my son now carried forward. We floated there side by side, the sun warming our faces, the water holding us up. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was full of laughter, of love of us. Karen had once called it his pool, so I drained it. But in the end, we refilled it, with more than water, with family, with hope, with home. You've heard this confession, now wait until you hear the next one. The truth that shatters everything you thought you knew.